There was once a man who lived in a small village nestled between two mountains. He was known for his temper, a fire that burned so brightly it often left him and those around him scorched. His name was forgotten over time, but his reputation lingered, a man who could not be crossed. A man who carried his anger like a second shadow. One day, after a particularly heated argument with a neighbor over a trivial matter, he stormed out of the village. His fists clenched, his heart pounding. He walked for hours, his mind a storm of indignation, until he found himself at the edge of a vast, still lake. The water was so clear it mirrored the sky, and the silence around him was so profound it felt like a presence. He sat down on a rock, his anger still simmering, and stared at the water. As he sat there, a figure appeared on the opposite shore, a monk, dressed in simple robes, carrying a wooden bucket. The monk knelt by the water, filled the bucket, and began to walk back toward the trees. But as he did, the bucket began to leak, leaving a trail of water behind him. The man watched, puzzled. Why would someone carry a leaking bucket? The monk returned, filled the bucket again, and once more, water dripped steadily from its base. This time, the man stood up and called out, "Why do you carry a bucket that leaks? You're wasting your effort." The monk paused, looked at him, and said, "And why do you carry anger that leaks? You're wasting your life." The words struck the man like a thunderclap. He sat back down, his mind racing. The monk disappeared into the trees, leaving him alone with the lake and his thoughts. He realized, for the first time, that his anger was like that bucket, constantly spilling, constantly draining him. It was a burden he carried everywhere, but it never served him. It only left a trail of pain and regret. He thought about all the times he had lashed out, all the relationships he had damaged, all the moments he had lost to the fire inside him. And as he sat there, the lake seemed to whisper to him, its stillness a mirror for his own turbulent heart. Days turned into weeks, and the man returned to the lake often. He would sit and watch the water, learning from its calm. He noticed how the lake never resisted the wind, how it allowed the ripples to come and go without holding onto them. He began to see his anger in the same way, not as something to fight or suppress, but as something to observe, to let pass through him like a ripple on the surface. Slowly, he started to change. When someone insulted him, he paused instead of reacting. When frustration rose in his chest, he breathed deeply, letting it dissolve like mist over the water. The villagers noticed the difference. They began to approach him again, to trust him, to seek his counsel, and though he still felt anger at times, it no longer controlled him. It was just a ripple, nothing more. One evening, as the sun dipped below the mountains, the man returned to the lake one last time. He stood at the water's edge, looking at his reflection. The face that stared back at him was older, wiser, and at peace. He realized that the lake had been his teacher, showing him the power of stillness, the beauty of letting go. He knelt down, cupped some water in his hands, and drank deeply. It tasted of clarity, of freedom. As he walked back to the village, he felt lighter, as if he had finally set down the leaking bucket he had carried for so long. And though he never saw the monk again, he carried the lesson with him, a quiet reminder that the greatest battles are not fought with fists, but with the heart. The man lived the rest of his days in the village, a quiet presence among the noise of life. He became known not for his temper, but for his wisdom, for the way he could calm a storm with a single word or a gentle look. And when he passed away, the villagers gathered by the lake to honor him. They told stories of his transformation, of the man who had learned to master his emotions, to find peace in the stillness. And as they spoke, the lake reflected the stars above, a silent witness to the power of self-awareness, of the journey from anger to grace. The ripples on its surface came and went, just as emotions do, but the water remained, deep and unshaken, a reminder that true strength lies not in what we carry, but in what we let go.